faster than a speeding typewriter, more powerful than a printing press, able to speak over tall buildings in a single sound. Look, up on the dial!
It's a conservative!
It's a liberal!
It's Supermouth! Yes, it's Supermouth, strange visitor from the past with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal talk show hosts. Supermouth, who can change the course of local politics, bend ears with his bare mouth, and who, disguised as Mike Wiley, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan radio show, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
Good morning. It's 5 minutes to 10 here on a Monday morning. I kind of decided that I'd like to do these shows on a Monday morning and then start working on the next one the following week. My name is Mike Wiley, just in case you've never watched me. And of course, that is my radio broadcasting voice you're listening to. Because I was a real radio broadcaster, actually one of the first to be removed during the Clinton War in America in 1995, because I threatened Hillary Clinton live on radio that if she came up to Massachusetts to run for U.S. Senate, she would have to meet me in the primary. She didn't like that idea after watching me beat the piss out of her brother the year before in a televised debate, knowing that there was no way in hell she's going to be on a TV debate with me. So she made a little phone call, did a little this, did a little that. The next thing you know, 2 months later, I'm off the air, banished forever. But because of this thing called podcasting, I have a whole new ball game to play. So now that I've retired from complete work of business and finance and whatever, I've decided to go back into this and try it out. I know there's a lot of people out there that do podcasting. I know they all have the microphones in front of them. I don't know why. Oh, maybe because then they look like they're real broadcasters. See, I have the microphone here. I'm a real broadcaster. My microphone is over there on that credenza, whatever you want to call it. I just got a new table put together, and this is what we're doing our show on. Of course, you can't see the table from the camera, but that's okay. It's a nice wooden table with sides on it, and it was made in China, I guess. That's why it came with certain places that didn't have holes in it that was supposed to, but I was able to figure out how to put it together. So, we're gonna go with the idea that maybe you've never heard of me before, never seen me before, and I know there's all these people out there you go by on YouTube and you see them and they're doing a show, and it looks like a lot of people just want to be able to give their opinion, and then they have to have something to give their opinion on, and what they're doing is they're actually taking video from other people's shows who may have had somebody on, they play it, and then they go, hey, blah, 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 blah. It's just, but hey, it's a free system so far. So we started this about 2 years ago, and we started out as America's Court of Public Opinion. And the thought process was that a lot of stuff is going into court, and you would think that maybe we would have a method of being able to stop the criminal scum, communist, progressive pig Democrats and their Marxist Chinese masters, but that hasn't happened yet. I don't know when it's going to happen. It should have ended in November of 2020, but the Democrats were in full-blown retreat, and so let me just give you a few things just to get this introduction system going. So I have investigative abilities. Matter of fact, sometime around 1974, I was going to go into the FBI. I had graduated with an accounting degree. I have this ability to find shit, logically follow things, be able to deduce things that other people can't deduce. It's a strength I have. So I was going to go in the FBI and ended up getting a real nice job the week before that interview. So instead of me going to the FBI, just my fingerprints did, because I went to work for a defense contractor and I had to go through public security clearance. So I haven't been able to commit a crime all this time because the fingerprints are on with them. So we started as America's Court of Public Opinion, and that was doing pretty good, but I found that I was doing the shows too long because, you know, when you're in court and you're presenting information, which I've done for a period of some 20 years, actually it's 24 now, but I'm kind of retired from pro se law. My first case was in 1920. That was my divorce. My mom always says, you should be an attorney. You should be an attorney. I go, come on, come on, come on. And then I walked in the courtroom and beat the living shit out of my wife's, ex-wife's attorney. And I thought to myself, oh my God, my mother was right. Yeah, my mother was right. I should be an attorney. But I was busy doing other stuff. And then in 2012, with the advent of Barack Obama and his criminal acts and destruction of the economy, let's see, we had Jimmy Carter, he destroyed the economy. We had the Clintons, they destroyed the economy and gave top secret equipment information to the communist Chinese, but they never got put in electric chairs like the Rothschilds did. And then you have, not the Rothschilds, it'll come to me. Then you have all this other stuff that's going on. And the shows were taking too long, and I wanted to cut them back. And then I was working on the July 4th show. And the July 4th is going to be the 5-6 big lies that lying Democrats will tell you. Now, the reason why I say 5 and then parentheses 6 is because the picture is of a hand, but the hand has 6 fingers, which would make sense because the Democrats always lie. They always do. They've been doing it for a while. It's their nom de plume. That's what they get away with. So we're going to do a show on July 4th, and I was working on putting that show together. And upon further review, I found some shit. And then I thought to myself, you know what, Mike, maybe this is what we should call the show, upon further review. I know there's a lot of people with podcasts that do sports and stuff, and they go, upon further review, so they can complain about referees and shit like that. And so I said, no, upon further review makes sense because I have this innate ability to be able to find stuff, investigate, read stuff, even though I have a known reading disorder, which actually kept me from graduating law school after one season, 1 year. But if I have the time to review stuff, I'm very good in court. My record proves that, and I'm proud of that. I would have made a great attorney, but I can't help people out. I can be a forensic accountant to them. So if someone's got a problem, they got to go to small claims, they can hire me to come in and get on the stand and let some asshole attorney try to beat the shit out of me, which doesn't work. Last case I was on as a professional witness was up in Massachusetts, and there was this guy, and he was committing a crime, and the crime was that he was doing an illegal transfer. And what that means is you have a house, and you own the house. And then someone's going to put a lien on your house for like $15,000, $16,000 for the building materials you refuse to pay for. So that lien goes on, and then you can go take the person to court if they're not going to pay and take over the property to be able to get the lien paid. So we had this guy, he did that. He was supposedly selling his house to some cousins of his or something. So it was staying in the family, and it qualified as a as an illegal transfer. So, so I have a bit of an attitude when I get into court, because there's people that go into court and they're lawyers and they don't even belong at a shoe stand or a ice cream truck. It's kind of pathetic. It's kind of pathetic. And I'm sitting there saying, so these guys became lawyers because they could read and didn't have a reading problem. I need more time to take these tests. I didn't find out till later that someone with that disability that I have could retake the tests and have more time to do it. And that's the difference, because in law, they give you a law test, and it's usually 4 true false. 2 of them are totally false. You can pick those out in 5 seconds. The problem is that the other 2 are actually true, but one is more truer than the other. And that's the thing about the law, is you can go a certain way with it, but then there's that point that usually comes up when if you're in a court case and you have an honest judge, which we haven't seen in a while with the hearings against Trump, and we're going to cover that today. So I'm in this court case, and I'm put on the stand because I'm the accountant CFO for the company, and the defendant, his attorney, knows that he's got to try to destroy me while I'm sitting on the stand to make it seem like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So I'm sitting on the stand, and this attorney, there's nothing he can do. It's yeah, he saw him pull out the gun and stab the guy in the head, and here's the video. They have to try to make it seem like you don't know what you're talking about, and therefore what you're saying doesn't make sense, and therefore you can get your defendant to be found not guilty, even though he's guilty as sin. So this attorney, for 30 minutes, has me on the stand, and he's asking me this, and he's asking me that, trying to be able to make it seem like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And I'm starting to get an attitude. And when I get an attitude in court, I don't let it stay in me. I have a tendency to let it out and take my chances with the judge to see how much he got mad at me for it. But that's the way I am. So he's then asked this question. He says, Mr. Wiley, you said earlier that you knew everything about this case, and so I asked you, when they were doing the materials, brought the materials to the house, what is it that they were doing to the house, and to improve it, or what was the deal? And I says, well, they dropped the materials off, and then they put the roof on. And he says, can you tell us how that's done? And I said, no, I can't tell you how it's done. And the guy says, the lawyer then says to me, oh, Mr. Wiley, you said you knew everything. I go, yeah, I did. But they don't send accountants out to repair roofs. They send contractors out. It was kind of like this zing. You can tell when you zing the lawyer because his whole face just crinkles. The judge looked at me and goes, Mr. Wiley, gave me one of these Mr. Wileys. I get him, Mr. Wiley. But it's law is combative. And we don't really see that these days because we don't really get to go in the courtroom and see what goes on, because they don't want us to see what goes on in the courtroom because they're committing crimes in the courtroom. So we've changed the name to upon further review. And it makes sense because a lot of things that I've looked at and I've reread and I've looked at the information, upon further review, I find shit that's going on that we're going to talk about, and we're going to start today with it. And there's so much that I could talk about. First, let me give you a couple of viewpoints or some news articles, and then we'll get to this segment of under further review. upon further review. Excuse me. First of all, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey has announced his intention to launch legal battle against the state of New York, accusing it of an unconstitutional attack on the democratic process through its legal actions against Donald Trump. Now, what bothers me about this is there should be some 20-some-odd other Republican governors joining this suit. And right now they haven't. But this is, our nation's under attack. It's been under attack specifically for 30 years. Long term, I go back to 1913 when the Progressive Democrats and the Progressive Republicans got together, the same scumbags we're dealing with today, and gave us a tax code and took away the states' rights to have Senate representation, which of course are both tenets of the Constitution, and therefore that's illegal what they did, but they still did it. Because remember, these criminal scumbags we put into office that spend all our money, put us into debt. They leave rich. We're left poor. They get away with this shit and nothing's going on about it. It really fries my ass. So there should be some 20-some-odd other governors following this and should have filed. And I would expect that we would have more. Now, let me just point something out. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. By the way, how many people know of the 10 Commandments? Yeah, them babies. Yeah, we Jewish guys pulled it down from some mountain so many hundreds and thousands of years ago. Anyways, number 9 says, thou shalt not bear false witness. It says, shall not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And that's because in those days, people weren't traveling 15 miles somewhere by helicopter airplane to get to someplace else where they could bear false witness. So that's why it said against thy neighbor, because they figured it would be the closest thing. But the idea is that you're not supposed to lie. You're not supposed to lie. Now, we have this other thing, another 10 things called the Bill of Rights, which the Democratic Party has sworn not to uphold, not to acknowledge, and therefore that's why they keep saying, we're a democracy! Because we're not a democracy. We could be considered a democratic republic. I like to refer to us as a constitutional republic because the Constitution is the law, except in the states run by Democrats. And that's the whole point. The whole point is to employ blue zones. They're not states. And here's why I don't call them states. Number one, a lot of blue zones are little small areas like Minneapolis, Minnesota. Okay, where you got like 4 compacted districts. And you have a lot of people in there. And then you got the rest of Minnesota is like 95% of the land run by Republicans, but they have no power because you have this little group of people. A good chunk of them came from Somalia, thanks to Obama and his criminal plans to destroy the nation through the use of law and let us go, oh, I guess we've got it shoved up our ass again. But at least it was legal, huh? 6th Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state. Can Donald Trump find an impartial jury in District of Columbia of New York? And the answer is no, he can't. So there can't be any trials in these 2 states. Or 1 state, and the Democrats want to make D.C. a state so they can pull 2 more senators out of their ass. Which the district shall have been previously ascertained by law and not to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Now it says, by an impartial jury of the state, which district shall have been previously ascertained, the accused shall enjoy the right of a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district where the crime shall have been committed, to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation. And you've seen everybody on TV that had 5 minutes of law tell you that, of course, Marchand, the criminal, and the other judges on these other stooge cases in New York are violating that. And in this case, they didn't even have it written in. What's the crime? What's the crime?
Oh, it's 34 felony complaints. Yeah, he's a criminally.
It's all bullshit. Now, I happen to have a background in accounting, and I think what we will do is we'll spend a little time doing a little simple math. Okay? So when you read the information about the case, they're basically saying, well, we found 3 instances where Mr. Trump, or somebody Mr. Trump knows, or somebody that knows how to spell Trump. So in Trump's case, they're trying to claim that he's a convicted felon, which is not true. He also has committed 34 counts of felonies. This is a bunch of bullshit. And I don't know why, of course we couldn't see the court case, but I don't know why the defense didn't put somebody like me on the stand and ask me legally and accounting-wise, how many actually counts are there? Well, the count is based on an action. And what they're saying is that he committed 34 acts of fraud because he was doing the journal entries or the entries that the bookkeeper does or whatever. And in most cases, it's like QuickBooks. Everybody uses QuickBooks. It's automated. It's not it's not antique anymore like the way the law says it in New York. They haven't updated it. So they're trying to say, okay, there were 11 invoices. So that's 11 entries. And then they made payment by checks, and that's 11 entries. And then there was another 11 entries for the recording of it in the payables, and then there was another entry. So there must have been an adjusting entry. So that's how they came up with the 34. I swear to God. So I looked at this as, wait a minute, how could that be? How could that be? How could it have actually stood? This is where Trump's people kind of screwed up, because they should have fought the fact that there's no 34 counts. Number one, it looks like there were 3 people that they say got paid. 3 people got paid. And they say that they were trying to hide the fact that they paid these 3 people. 3 people. 34 people? No, 3 people. Okay. If you paid 3 people money, how many actual transactions took place?
Let's see, 3?
Yeah, it's 3, not 34. So how they come up with 34? They go, well, he got 11 invoices. He sent 11 invoices out, I guess, to people, or he received 11 invoices. Usually, someone sends you a bill, and if you're paying something, someone's sending you the invoice. So somebody sent him 11 invoices. Did he send himself the 11 invoices? No, he didn't. But they're saying, but he entered it into the system or whatever, or, use a stone tablet or something for counting these days. And that's part of the 34. Well, it's not. Okay. 11 invoices entered into an automated system is one set of entries. So you can say, yeah, those were 11 entries, okay, of a bill that had been by a service that may have been owed from one person. If all those invoices are to the same person, in this case, we believe it was to his lying scum attorney Cohen from before, The reason why the 11 invoices may have been broken up is because that's the way the attorney wanted it when he sent out the billings. Or he didn't send only one billing out, but he sent it out based on time. A lot of attorneys use these time systems. You know, when you call up an attorney, you talk to him for 5 minutes, that's $200. Talk to me again for another 10 minutes, that's another $300. They charge you for when they breathe. That's why the law is so expensive. So I know we're going to go over an hour on this because when I start talking. Matter of fact, let me just check to see how long we've been. Okay, 25 minutes. All right, I can get this to an hour. I want these shows to be an hour. But sometimes because of the information and being able to explain the scam, I've got to do it this way. So then they're saying, well, they then enter the 11 invoices into the QuickBooks, not the QuickBooks, but into accounts payable. Okay, well, how could that be? Have you assholes not heard of double entry accounting, which is now automated? So in other words, when they put the bill in, okay, I got a bill from the attorney. Hey, Grandma, I got a bill from the attorney. What expense account should it be?
Well, it's a lawyer. It's legal.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, but this is New York. New York, all criminal activity done by Democrats is a foundation for a nonprofit or something. So those 11 invoices are being entered into a computer system, and the QuickBooks, if it's in QuickBooks or any other automated system, the payables thing is already being entered at the same time. So it's not 22 separate incidences, it's still 11. But when you're dealing with criminal scumbags running around as attorney generals or what do you call these other assholes? District attorneys. You know, when you find these criminal district attorneys, and the Democrats love using black criminals to do this stuff because it looks good on TV. See, black people hate Trump. See, here's Letitia James. Here, Fannie Willis. Here, Alvin Bragg. What a coincidence. They're all black. Where the fuck did you people find that shithead down in Florida who's losing his case? You know, where did you actually find a white guy or something, or you just... I think that was the Attorney General made a mistake. He was supposed to use somebody black, and he didn't. Because, you know, when you point out something about a black person, you're racist. Yeah. So the 34 counts is false. It's fraudulent. Why am I the only person bringing that up? I don't understand that. I must be missing something. Then they said, oh, well, then there's the 11 checks. You see, the 11 checks that paid the 11 invoices, well, those 11 checks are now illegal recordings. You know, what the fuck did they record? The payment of the invoice. Was there any journal entry charge to legal expense? Well, let's face it. If there's 11 invoices, then the most you can have for an account is if you put them in the wrong account, that's 11 counts, okay? But if it's for the same service from the same attorney and he decides to break it up on his own, that is nothing that you did. It's what you got for a bill and you did it that way because that's what they sent you. If he sends you a bill for this, you're not going to enter in something else, some other number. You're going to record the invoice. So they're trying to say that Trump committed 34 felony counts, which is a lie. Anybody want to send me to New York? Okay. You fly me to New York. You can put me on the stand. You got to pay for my air flight, my 2 days, 3 days in a hotel in New York, and my restaurant bill to the Katz's Deli while I'm up there. I'm Jewish. Gotta get corned beef if you're up in New York, otherwise you die. Or send me to the purple shit on the Blarney stove. okay? I'm from Boston, okay? Jews and Irish, okay? I love Jewish food, I love Irish food. Okay, if you want to get great meat and potatoes, you gotta go to an Irish restaurant. And there were 23 Blarney Stones last time I was there.
30 some odd years ago.
But I'm telling you, here you go. Yeah, let me have that steak and gravy, and yeah, give me that potatoes, and what do you want for vegetable? I don't want any vegetable. All right, I'll give you more potatoes. I love the Blarney Stone. So I digress, but I think you got the point about the 34 fraudulent felony counts. Will someone besides me bring that shit up? Okay. Now, I'm not going off base, but I'm just throwing this in, okay? Now, I've told you before in previous shows that we're at war. The Democratic Party is attacking the United States. It has been. I actually believe, I know you're going to go,
Mike, you're crazy.
but I actually believe that the Civil War actually never ended. You see, the Confederates were getting the shit beat out of them. And they were exhausted and tired. They were running out of food and ammo and everything. And they knew that at some point in time, you're going to have all these other men killed during the war. So General Lee pulls his people off the field, goes to Appomattox Courthouse on, I believe April 9th, 1865. And he surrenders to Grant. Now, it turns out that the actual war didn't end for like another 6-7 months because that was just the Army of Virginia. You see, the Confederates were actually separated states in this confederation. And then 5 days later, somebody goes and assassinates somebody, happened to be a Confederate, assassinates Abraham Lincoln, and the war's back on. Why is the war back on? Because some vice president named Johnson, isn't that amazing? In the history of the United States, there were 2 Democrats, last name Johnson, made vice president. And both of them had their boss, the president, killed. Yes. Prove me wrong. Okay. Lyndon Baines Johnson had John Kennedy assassinated because Kennedy refused to go into Vietnam. And Lyndon Baines Johnson wanted to become a millionaire. For some reason, when he died, he was only worth $110 million. 40 some odd, 60 years now. And then, of course, the Confederates wanted the Democrat to be president because then he could fuck over all the black people who had been promised everything that Lincoln wanted to see. And the Secretary of State, they did the show Manhunt. Sewell, I believe his name was Sewell. And he, Stanton, it was Stanton. And they had all these things, and all the slaves were going to be given a mule and 40 acres of land to restart their lives with. And this was part of what was known as Reconstruction. Oh, the Democrats didn't like Reconstruction at all. So they killed Lincoln, and then the vice president, who was the Democrat, became the president. What's the first thing he do? He starts screwing up Reconstruction, pulling it back, this and that, gets rid of the 40, everything, just everything that was promised, he got rid of it. That was the second part of the war we're in today. And we're going to cover that further when we do upon further review of the 1929 fake depression, which actually didn't occur until the Democrats got into Congress in 1931. The depression fake was used to get them elected, just like they did in 1987 and 2007. There's a whole history of this shit. Our nation's at war with the Democratic Party. It's been that way for a long time. It's not going to stop until they go their way, we go our way. And that's a whole other ballgame. Let me just give you an example. 16 states on Monday filed a lawsuit challenging President Donald Trump's national emergency declaration. The group of states led by California Attorney General Xavier Becerra filed a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California. We're going to try to halt the president from violating the Constitution. Yeah, right. You violate the Constitution when you wake up in the morning and take a shit. Separation of powers from stealing money from Americans and states that has been allocated by Congress lawfully. Yeah. Do you want to do a show on how many laws are violated by congressional actions? Kind of like this impeachment we're going to go to. We want to prevent the president from stealing money from Americans and states that have been allocated. Okay. So at the time, there's 16 blue states, or blue zones, because they're not states. Okay. Why is New York not a state, Mike? Mr. Genius. Why is New Jersey not a state? Why is Massachusetts not a state? Why is Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado not states? Well, they didn't really sign the Constitution, but New York sure did, and so did New Jersey, and so did Massachusetts. You see, there's this thing called contract law. And that's one of the three laws you learn when you go through law school for your first year. They teach you contract law, that's for business. They teach you tort law, that's for accidents and negligence and all sorts of good shit. And then there's criminal law. That's for just in case there happens to be a criminal somewhere in the country, which is usually never found unless Democrats are in power. Then they're all over the frickin' place. They plant criminals like seeds. Well, there's this thing. It's called the Constitution of the United States. And if you read it, there's a document that comes just before it. And it's sometimes referred to as the preamble to the Constitution. It's called the Declaration of Independence, where the states declare their independence and they agree to form this union. And they all signed it. It's a signed contract. New York signed it. New Jersey signed it. Massachusetts signed it. Maryland signed it. Delaware signed it. They're not states. Why? Because they violated that contract when they decided to let Democrats run their states not only into the ground, but into legal persuasion. They violate the law. We watched it so much. Violation of the law. If you violate the law, you're violating the contract, and therefore, you're not part of the United States. End of story. That's my opinion based on legality. Somebody else could say, well, Mike, you're kind of right, but... Let me read you something. Now, I know that reading this to you means that I can be put to death. Because what I'm about to read to you is disinformation, misinformation, and go fuck yourself information. Amendment number 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Really? What other rights do I have that they're not telling me I have? Let's see. Hey, don't I have the right as an American to free and fair elections? Huh? Really? I bet that's one of them. You always keep people saying about the people have the right to free and fair elections, but they never tell you where that comes from. Ninth Amendment, baby. Okay. Upon further review, now this makes sense for for me doing this because I have the ability to pull shit out of the sky, pull it out of documentation, and we're going to go back through a lot of the things that I've already gone through. I'm going through those videos, and if they're pertinent or if they're said right, if they look right, we're going to put them in here. But let me get to this. Okay. Now, as you know, the Democratic Party commits crimes every day. Some are big crimes, some are little crimes. Now, evidently, Donald Trump was never to be president of the United States. China didn't want him being president of the United States because they couldn't kick our ass when he was president, and he was too tough on them and cost them a lot of money because usually, under Obama, the Chinese got about $500 billion a year in money so they could build a military to defeat us because Obama is some Kenyan Chinese agent. He's no fucking American, and we all know that. Matter of fact, someone just had a video of him speaking to people in a group, and he mentions that he wasn't born in Hawaii. He's a Kenyan. I got to find that video.
People say that maybe I'm not an American citizen. And some people said, he has a forged birth certificate. Well, first of all, it's true, I'm not American. I was not born in Hawaii. I wasn't born in the United States of America. I come from Kenya. And so I think people saw my election as proof, as testimony that our society has continued to become more and more naive, religions that have come together around a set of shared ideals. And we are still a place where anybody has a chance to make it through misleading and dishonest practices, if they try. If that wasn't true, then somebody named Barack Hussein Obama from Kenya, from Africa, would not be elected president of the United States.
This show is based on evidence. It's always been on evidence. Why? Because I've been trained for some 25 years as a pro se litigant to have evidence for everything I say. Now, why is that? Well, have you ever heard of a thing called a lie? Have you ever heard of people referring to lawyers as liars? A lawyer can stand in court and he can lie. And he gets away with it because the judge can't say, hey, you're lying. The judge has to be neutral. The judge can't say, hey, you're lying, cut it out. But if the opponent says, hey, Your Honor, this guy's full of shit, and here's the reason why. Bing, ba, bing, ba, bing, ba, bing, ba, bing, ba, bing. Now the judge has something to look at and something he can review and say, okay, bing. One of my greatest court cases in the history of my pro se career lasted 5 minutes. Took us 2 hours before we finally got in, but the case only lasted 5 minutes. I've seen that problem with landlords, criminal scum landlords. Matter of fact, my last case, hopefully my last case, I don't have to do anymore, was against a criminal landlord. It took 6 years, but we had to wait till he died because he wasn't going to settle. He died November 2022, and Allstate Insurance contacted me and go, hey, the guy's dead. So we're going to go ahead and put ourselves in as the defendants and we'll get this settled. And we did. They always knew I had him because I had the evidence. I presented the evidence several times, and in 2 hearings, they tried to do this motion for summary judgment and got killed. Matter of fact, it was the attorney who got it killed that was proposing it. And the reason why was because she brought something up and didn't think I would go through, and upon further review, find out exactly what the weather was and when it was. She had some asshole who was supposed to be some weather guy. and he writes this signed affidavit, and he says, I reviewed everything, and the temperature never dropped to freezing at night. Not at all. Not at all. There you go. It's all said. Okay? There's one problem. I got a hold of the same evidence because it comes from the National Weather Service. And I could tell what he was reporting was true was when he used the term it was 50, 5:50. Everything was on the 50th minute of the hour. And when he didn't have that, I knew he was throwing some bullshit. So I'm looking through the information and holy shit. There it is, 6:50 a.m. The weather report saying that at 6:50 a.m. on that Tuesday morning, when I was walking down a handicap ramp and my right foot stepped on frozen ice, I slipped, my left leg didn't move because it was on dry wood, and I fell on my leg, snapping my quadricep muscle, and I walked with a limp for the rest of my life. Slight limp. I can't do bowling or certain things I can't do because the knee doesn't support itself all the time. It's got play in it, let's say. Well, I saw that. And in a summary judgment motion, you have to give reasons for why you should dismiss the case. Your Honor, there's nothing more to discuss. There's nothing more to discuss, Your Honor. It's all been discussed. There's nothing to it. It's throw this bitch out. Let's get rid of it. Only one problem, though, was she had also introduced this new ice guy, the Mr. Wizard, a weather wizard. And that gave me the opportunity to prepare a little informational and saying, well, Your Honor, that may be true in her sense, but she was kind enough to bring this information up about the weather, and the weather was at 6:50 a.m. Here's the report that they're not showing you, but I'm showing you. It was frozen. So that has to be decided. And that was the end of that motion to dismiss. Anyways, Allstate settled with me and gave me some money. Not as much as I wanted to, but it was sure as hell more than what the attorney I had first hired got me. I don't let him go. He was an idiot. He got me $0, and I got me $40K, 5 of which paid off Medicare stuff, and not Medicare, Medicaid stuff, because I had just moved to Rhode Island and I wasn't old enough for Medicare. And part of the Obama program to destroy America. Did you ever move to a state where it took 7 months to see a primary care physician? 7 months. Oh, Rhode Island, we have this Obamacare. Yeah, it's real great. Yeah. 7 months. So stupid. Okay, now we only got 13 minutes left to go, so this is going to be, we're going to do this in 2 parts. They'll be separate. This will be, upon further review, Chapter 1, and then Chapter 2, which I'll do right after I do this. We'll separate out. But I have some things I have to show you because of what happens upon further review. Now, sometimes there's evidence that's brought into a scenario, and everybody goes,
oh, that's nice. Okay. Hey, let me have the hamburger.
Problem is that evidence proves that the Democrats are full of shit. Now, the Democrats are only full of shit 99.7% of the time. 0.3% of the time, they're actually telling the truth. And that's when they fart, because farts don't lie. Don't mind me, but I got a sip of coffee. So, now I already went through and did a show on the election fraud, covered it all, showed it all. It was obvious. It's the whole the whole January 6th thing, all of that was all tied in. And we've already done those shows, and I'm going to repackage them up into 1-hour segments to put them into this whole upon further review, because basically that's what it was. Upon further review, I found this shit out. NAACP sues President Trump for systematically trying to disenfranchise black voters. December 21st, 2020, the NAACP sued President Trump, his presidential campaign, and the Republican National Committee in the Duchy of Columbia, formerly known as the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, which doesn't exist anymore because it's not part of the United States. It violates everything about the United States, and it's disenfranchised America. Oh, but the U.S. District Court of District of Columbia for systematically trying to disenfranchise black voters in states across the country. So the 4 defendants in this case live in Detroit, Michigan. For some reason, the case was brought in the District of Columbia because all criminal activity begins with the District of Columbia and the court system, because they're all criminal scumbags, and that's a problem that we have in this nation. And my suggestion is, and I'm just going to show you this so you don't think I'm an idiot gone mad. Where is it here? No, I think I put it in here. Hold on.
See, I have a bigger desk now. It's much easier to do shows here.
I'm just looking forward to show you. But I believe that the problem with Washington, D.C. is it's not Washington, D.C. It's not a District of Columbia. It's a district of criminals. And the way you fill it with criminals is by having enough land to load in people to register to vote there and become citizens of the District of Columbia. And the District of Columbia is not supposed to have anything to do with our government except be where it's centered. I can't find this. This is going to piss me off. It's just a piece of paper, but it's the map of the District of Columbia. Okay, and it needs to be cut back. Okay, you can take a certain amount of property and move the borders back and turn that land over to Maryland. And turn all the people that live in that area over to Maryland, because the District of Columbia should be a neutral site, and it's not. 95% of the people in the District of Columbia are black, and they are trained and paid to vote for Democrats. Otherwise, they don't get no free shit while they're there. You know, of course, a lot of people that live in Washington, D.C. are also very wealthy because they went to the right schools. They're part of the higher class. So, as someone who analyzed and discovered a good chunk of the election fraud, and somebody can put me on the stand anytime they want to, and I'll present it. So, the NAACP files this lawsuit on November 20th, within 2 weeks of the election being stolen by the Democrats. You know, I don't know if you've ever put together a legal brief for a court. I think this one was like 110 pages. Well, that doesn't happen overnight. You need some time to do this. My guess that this lawsuit was already prepped and ready to be entered into the court the day after the election, but they wanted to wait a little so you wouldn't think that they had this prepared. Why would the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, on behalf of the Michigan people or Michigan black people, filed this lawsuit? And why was it not in Detroit? Instead, it was in the District of Columbia. Well, District of Columbia is a lock. President Trump and his Derek Johnson, president of the NAACP, said President Trump and his allies have repeatedly and unsuccessfully tried to overturn the 2020 presidential election results and undermine confidence in our democracy.
We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. Remember that.
Remember, democracy is mob rule. And that's how the Democrats do this, with numbers. We got more numbers than you. We don't give a shit that we're violating the law. We got more numbers. It's 10 versus 9. We win. Except in the case of when it's 6 versus 3 in the Supreme Court and they lose,
they cry about it.
Okay, the lawsuit alleges that President Trump, the Trump campaign, and the RNC have engaged in a coordinated conspiracy to disenfranchise black voters by disrupting vote counting efforts, lodging groundless challenges. Who may determine that's groundless? A criminal Democrat? During recounts and attempting to block certification of election results through the intimidation and coercion of election officials and volunteers. In other words, the Republicans, goddamn Republicans, were doing what they legally have a right to do. They have a right to challenge every election. Didn't the Democrats challenge the 2016 election? I got video. I've done a show on it. Yes, you see, in America, Democrats can do whatever the fuck they want. But Republicans can't. A Democratic president can commit all the treason and crime, get millions of dollars from voters in Saudi Arabia, even though it's illegal. Democrat Obama can do that. Hillary Clinton and her husband can commit all these crimes. It's okay. Yes, go ahead. Give the Chinese strategic military intelligence so they can send missiles and shove them up our ass. Because right now they can't even get a balloon to show up in the right spot. These steps to delegitimize our democracy were targeted in cities around the country with high numbers of black voters.
Really? Huh. What's that tell you?
What does that tell you? What did this fucking idiot just tell you? Oh, wait a minute, let's see. We're filing the lawsuit because we're the NAACP, so it has to have to do with black people. So it can only be the black hearings. The Republicans didn't try to fix the votes in other areas. Why? Why? Okay, we have a crime going on. Okay, and it's at the Fruit Loop Center on the East 43rd. Get down there now. Well, did you stop it? No, we're at West 43rd. I thought you said go to West 43rd. No, you're in the wrong location. Yeah, all the crime, all the election fraud was committed in the black community. Why was it committed in the black community? Why did the NAACP tell us it was committed in the black community? These actions are a clear violation of the Voting Rights Act and the Ku Klux Klan Act.
Oh, wow. Donald Trump violated the Ku Klux Klan Act.
Yeah, that was passed by Ulysses S. Grant, Republican president, because Republicans were being dressed up in these white suits. And Republicans were all over the place hanging black people. And the interesting part was the black people were being attacked and killed on election days for years. And nobody did a shit about it. Wait a minute here. So Derek, president of the NAACP, is saying that the Republicans were looking at the violations of voting in areas that had high numbers of black voters. Really? Across the country. From Detroit to Milwaukee, Atlanta to Philadelphia. Excuse me, Your Honor, should we look into those 4 cities to see if we can find the election fraud? We want to thank the NAACP for pointing out where they committed the election fraud. They've targeted areas with large numbers of black voters and made baseless, racist claims to attempt to not count their votes. This, of course, is bullshit. Most cases brought by Democrats are bullshit. It's all a scam. Okay? They knew that someone was going to figure this whole shit out of what they were doing. And so they were prepared to sue Donald Trump before the election for something they knew they were going to do to try to make sure the election wasn't stolen. You know, it's kind of like, okay, there's video of you stabbing this guy in the head. So we need to have evidence that shows that he didn't have a head by the time that happened. So that means you didn't stab him in the head because he didn't have a head. GBI. Go ahead and look up GBI. See if you can find these people. I don't know what GBI stands for, but I think it has to do with Gary Bell Incorporated. It's a black company that does criminal activity for the Democratic Party by going around and coming up with fake registrations. Why did we have fake registrations? No, I've done this on the show, so I'm not going to play the video about it. Everybody knows that Joe Biden's a racist. Clarence Thomas knows he's a racist. But he's only been a racist for 40, 50 years, that's all. Everybody knows it. Black people know it. How do we know black people know it? Because Donald Trump goes to a Chick-fil-A in Atlanta. And that Chick-fil-A has Morehead College and 3 other, so it's a total of 4 nationally historical black colleges that he gave money to that nobody else was giving him. And so they came out. There's a lot of Trump supporters there that are black. The students know what the hell's going on. They're not stupid. You know that shit the Democrats have tried to pass on for years of how stupid black people are? Did you ever see the movie Hidden Figures? Oh, yeah, that movie was not supposed to be released. That was a mistake, you know. Come on. How could a black woman be so intelligent that she could do math better than 50 white guys in NASA and fix and come up with the right route for John Glenn? Yeah, of course. That's not a real movie. She wasn't, well, she was actually real. Yeah, it's true, okay, yeah. Black people aren't as fucking dumb as Democrats want us to know for years. Why do you think they didn't want them to read? Because black people that were reading books learned shit and could read. And then you had all these dumb white people in the South like, I don't know what to say. It's a part of our nation that needs to get fixed. And we're fixing it. And it's fixing itself. So, here's this black woman. Nice young girl. She's probably like 22 or something. She's in charge of this conservative forum group in Atlanta, and they're all Trump supporters. And so Trump's there, and he's buying everybody ice creams and stuff, or chicken, or whatever. And she comes out and says to him, "Don't worry, Mr. Trump, we're all for you, and we don't care what they say." And so she's showing some love to Trump. Now, Trump loves America. Trump naturally loves people. He don't give a shit what color you are, where you're from, whatever. And he goes, come here, give me a hug. So he's hugging this woman, and they're talking. And then Lawrence from Fox News sees this, and he calls her the next day, and he interviews her. And she lets the cat out of the bag.
I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump, we support you.
We love you.
Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a hug.
Please
Look at the joy. Here to tell us about it is that young woman herself, Michaela Montgomery. She's also the founder of a grassroots political group to conserve the culture. Michaela, I've been waiting for this interview all morning.
I've been waiting for this my whole life.
So thanks so much for joining us. So you told the president when you were hugging him, I don't care what the media says, we support you. Tell me what you meant by that.
I am so glad that is the first question you asked me. Mm-hmm. So, of course, in the excitement of everything, I wasn't able to really relay my message, but the general consensus or social media would have you thinking that if President Trump were to show up to the HBCU campuses or walk around the AUC community, that like some angry mob would form or a riot would ensue and that he would not be welcome. And clearly the sentiment in that room the other day was the complete opposite. He was very welcome. People were excited to see him. People showed up in support of him, and people, of course, were from all four institutions within the AUC, the local HBCU community in Atlanta, and they all showed up in support of him. So it's actually kind of crazy to see people in an uproar when all four institutions were legitimately represented, and all four institutions were represented by said students who wanted to support President Trump.
Such a good point. Michaela, what has Biden done for our community? What has he done for Black America?
Well, he locked up a lot of people that look like me, and they're still sitting in jail waiting for, justice, an appeal of some sort. So when it comes to what Joe Biden has done for Black America, if we look specifically at his record as a senator, it wasn't something that benefited us at all. If anything, one could argue that he dedicated his entire senatorial career to disrupting the way of life, for Black people. He didn't want Black kids going to the same school as his kids. He didn't want Black people walking on the sidewalk along with his mother and grandmother. So the fact that we ignore these things that were said on the Senate floor, like this is somebody who passed legislation with the sole intent of oppressing a certain community. And we're gonna act like that didn't happen, or we're gonna act like it can be overshadowed by somebody's comments a few years down the line that made us feel some type of way. Feeling some type of way is completely different when you can feel a certain type of way at home. There's people who are, as of right now, spending the rest of their lives in jail because, Joe Biden thought that they deserved it, as if there isn't retribution. And then you had somebody like Trump come in and give us the First Step Act to try and right the wrongs that were done with this 3 strikes rule, and nobody's talking about that.
Really? Upon further review of this video, I had already figured all this out. So this is just it confirmed what I knew. You can follow information and come to conclusions, and then this video actually confirmed exactly what I was saying. And the NAACP proved it with their lawsuit. It was stupid that they did this, but they were nice enough to mention the 4 cities where all the election fraud did actually occur. It just so happens that on January 6th, the Queen of Bitch came up with this plan to make sure that the Republicans couldn't stop the election, because they knew that what they were going to do, and they were going to get at least 3 states electors overturned, because they had 6 objections signed by a state house by a congressman and by a senator. The Democrats didn't have any of those in 2016 when they tried to overthrow Trump's presidency. Can't have it happen. Okay, we're gonna have a riot. We're gonna have to do something. Let's blame Trump, and let's haul out. Have our people are gonna be there, and we'll infiltrate. We'll have the FBI send 200 people in dressed like Trump supporters, and we'll pull off this shit. And then we'll have a fake January 6th committee. And then when all's said and done, if the Republicans win the election and take back the House, we'll destroy all the evidence. Yeah, it's called obstruction of justice. But we're Democrats.
We can do whatever the fuck we want to because we're Democrats. We've been at war with these assholes for, let's see, about 150 years, and they don't even know we're at war. Except that guy Wiley. That guy Wiley figured it out. He figured it out.
So, we're going to wrap this up. And then I'm going to do the next hour, and that'll be chapter 2, because I haven't even touched this stuff. But upon further review, basically means I, with the ability that I have to dissect shit and figure out where the crime is before anybody else does, I do it all the time, and I can find the information because I'm trained by 25 years of pro se law to not walk into a courtroom and not have my ducks in a row. I'm not that stupid, okay? Let my opponents be that stupid. They're lawyers. They got a degree. They were able to pass their law test so they can become lawyers. Doesn't mean they can stand in court and go up against me. No, so, and I'm sure there's some lawyers out there that could chew me up and spit me out, but it depends on what the subject is, because I'd have to read up on certain subjects. But I pretty much stick to tort law, criminal law, and contract law. Those are the 3 courses I learned in law school. I know that shit. Once you know shit, you can't lose it. So this is the end of chapter 1 of Upon Further Review. And we basically covered some. Okay, so hold on, before I go, I gotta say this. What act have the Democrats done since Joe Biden walked into the White House on day 1? What have they done to prove that the 2020 election was stolen? What have they done? "16 states on Monday evening filed a lawsuit challenging President Donald Trump's national emergency declaration because we don't want the wall built. We need to be bringing in 15 million illegals because black people will not vote for us anymore, and we know that. So we have to replace them with illegals. And we're going to kill off some senior citizens, about 1 million of them, and that'll give us about $250 million of Social Security we can spend and move into Medicare, and we'll take care of the illegals. And the illegals come in, and we'll have them sign these documents that are already going to be filled out, and they're going to be the 15 million black votes we're not getting anymore. The black people have smartened up, and they're no longer falling for our shit. And that's the reason why they had to get 15 million illegals from whatever country you can think of to come in, give them all this shit, give them a free card, fill this out, blah, 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 blah. They probably already have their votes in. They were already sending these vote forms out to 49 states, I guess they're not sending them up to Alaska because Alaska's too cold to send illegals to. Or it's Hawaii they're not sending them to because they can't afford the air flight, or the government can't afford the air flight to send them to Hawaii. So that's it in a nutshell. Okay. That's it in a nutshell. The opening of the southern border was done purposely to allow 15 million criminals into the country from wherever. It doesn't matter. And they're basically going to do 2 things. They're going to replace white people, because we have to get rid of the white people too, because they're a pain in the ass. We're going to get rid of white people, and then we're not going to get rid of the black people because they're the right color. You see, that's what we're trying to do. We're just going to do like what Europe's doing. Europe's trying to get rid of the white people by filling all those countries that have majority white people and fill them up with people from Africa and Middle East and everything. We're doing the same thing here. Okay, so we want to replace the white people and get rid of them. We don't need their votes because they tend to vote not for us.
So we'll keep the blacks. The blacks can keep voting for Republicans, but we're going to get those 15 million votes for whoever's running for our party. And that's the name of that tune. That's the name of that tune. So you have a bit of history of what these criminal assholes are doing. And now we're going to go to chapter 2. I'm going to take a quick break. And then when I come back, we're going to do chapter 2 of Upon Further Review. Thank you.